All right, we are live, I think. Yep, right now we're live. We're recording.
Okay,
So how you doing, Lee?
doing pretty good, brother. I'm gonna take my glasses off.
Yeah. So you got here yesterday, last night, or was it today?
I got here yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday. Yeah, I know the days kind of blur together, but you came from a pastor's huddle up in Wisconsin or Minneapolis?
It was in Minneapolis area. It was with Mark Henry and Jan Markell's Olive Tree Ministries. And there was 28 pastors from around the country there for 3 days of intensive Bible teaching.
How was your kind of impression of the pastors that did come to that?
I was really encouraged. There was a lot of rock solid convictions there. A lot of them are men who are tent makers, so they have a full-time job, and then on top of that, they are doing the pastoral work. So they don't have as much luxury as a full-time pastor to put time into intensive study, investigation. So they really enjoy these pastors' weekends because our pastors' huddles because they get to now 3 days of intensive study. It's kind of like a mini seminary.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really, for somebody like me that I've had to work my whole
Yeah.
life. There's not been a time when I didn't work. I think going back to when I was about 15, I this whole time I've done this ministry, it's always been just I've always worked whatever job it was, military or whatever, and then it was this. I did this on the side. So
Hello,
yeah, we're here.
hello, hello, hello.
What's up?
I left the sweater on the back of the chair in the dining room,
Yeah.
and I'm just coming back to get it. I can't, everything seems to be closed.
Go up to the front where the main desk is for, and they'll lost and found, or talk to the people at the Prophecy Watchers table.
Okay, because I just left it in there, but they whisked everything away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're here at the Prophecy Watchers conference, and it's funny because I was doing these live streams out in the hallway, and I mean I don't know how many people stop by like, hey, you know where the restroom is? I was like, man, I don't work here. I don't know, down the hall somewhere. Just keep looking for it. Or somebody's like, hey, do you know where I get coffee? I'm like, and then we were live. This is like live stream when we're doing it. So, but it's fun too. It's just kind of like it is what it is, Just kind of roll. In fact, I was with Mondo. We were doing a live stream earlier, and we heard some guys coming in. I didn't know who it was, and they kind of poked their head around a little bit, to see, because they heard me and Mondo talking. It was Billy Crone and Kim Michaels. And I was like, jump in here. So they came in, and they were all kind of like, getting on the camera and stuff. So it's funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's good times. I love these conferences.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know some people that I guess it is it's a luxury, I think, for believers of like-minded believers to all get together and kind of just fellowship and maybe feel like you're not so alone. Because I mean, people are coming from all over the country, and generally, you're the only person in your church or you're the only person in your community that even thinks or talks about this kind of stuff. So that's why I like these conferences. I mean, not just this conference, but all of them. Different sizes and stuff. So
I found the same thing. You go to a conference and people come up and they're very thankful. They communicate to the different speakers that we really appreciate you being here. We don't get this at our home church. Our pastor never touches on this stuff, or we can't even find a church. And so it ends up being, and some of these folks don't do a whole lot with social media other than maybe watch an occasional YouTube video.
Yeah.
And so these conferences is really a critical part of their fellowship.
It is. And I know that for those folks that watch online and stuff, if you feel like you're alone out there and you feel like you're the only one, and sometimes that YouTube show or program, yours or mine or whoever's, sometimes that is their only lifeline to any kind of fellowship with anybody. And so for me, I've always had this kind of and not a standing rule. I guess it is kind of a standing rule, but somebody can come into the chat, and this is with the moderators. If somebody comes in the chat, they can disagree, just be polite about it. Because what I didn't want it to happen was to devolve into like just people arguing over everything in the chat over something. Somebody comes in and they try to derail the conversation. So that's the only time I ever ask the moderators to either mute those folks or kick them out together. because I want that time to be kind of special for folks to
Right.
to be invested in the study that we're doing, or the topic, discussion, interview, any of those things. And when people devolve into fighting and arguing, bickering and stuff, it's just kind of like, I think to me that distracts from what's trying. And that's how Satan operates, man.
Yeah.
He loves to get in there. But so you've gotten to see a few of the. Have you watched any of the guys here?
I watched L.A. Marzulli's presentation on the pyramids
Yeah.
and the structures that are underneath the pyramids. And I found that some fascinating food for thought. I really want to do a little bit more investigation on there. And it's going to be interesting to see whether these initial crews that are going to do investigation, governments and universities, if they're actually going to release what they discover, or if they're going to cover it up.
I probably would bet on the latter, the cover up. There's so much right now that it's whether we're talking about going back to, say, Project Blue Book, where there was an intentional cover up by the government to hide Roswell, hide all the sightings and stuff that were happening. I just don't see them coming forth willingly unless they're forced to come forth with anything that would contradict the status quo of the day. Speaking of 3i Atlas, the comets that are coming through, now this is the third interstellar object that we've been able to detect coming in. You've had your own fictional series, The Rogue, which I only read the first one, and I haven't got to read the other three. Or is it?
It's two finished and one's on the way.
Yeah, so I haven't got to read the other two. But man, I just as soon as I started seeing all this stuff with 3i Atlas, I immediately thought back to your book. And I was like, man, he was way ahead of his time on that one. So
what's interesting is for decades I have believed that in the last days there was going to be a bombardment of objects, asteroids, and comets on the earth at the end of the age. Part of that was based on what we see in the book of Revelation, and part of it was just a knowledge of history that at the end of the gold age, the end of the silver age, the end of the bronze age, there was bombardments on the earth of comets and asteroids and meteorites, along with volcanoes and earthquakes. But all these ancient stories always said we're in the fourth age, and the fourth age is going to end with the same. So it ends up, it harmonizes with the Bible.
So on that, I'm going to ask you this question here, and it's from, it's the fourth trumpet. Yeah, fourth trumpet, the heavens are struck. Then the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. A third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. Now, when I first, even when I taught through Revelation, I was always looking at this from a terrestrial kind of standpoint, that it was volcanic eruption, ash from all that, or some type of maybe nuclear exchange, or there was something that we did on the earth that caused us to obscure the light from that. But the more, as 3i Atlas and all this stuff has come out, as 3i Atlas is coming closer, now another 7 comets have kind of appeared that are now kind of like crisscrossing around. And one of those, I thought that the earth was going to be passing through the tail.
Yes.
And I wondered, do you think it's possible that whether it's Apophis or some other type of thing that we haven't seen yet or know about, could that darkening come from it's such a massive tail, the debris coming from whatever this celestial body is, maybe a comet or asteroid or something? Well, it'd be a comet, but you think that's possible that could also darken?
Absolutely. So there's been several instances in history, for instance, with the Chicago fire, with the Peshtigo fire, which happened on the same day, with the event that happened in Moscow that forced Napoleon to retreat. This seems to be times when the Earth was in the tail of a massive comet that had appeared earlier, and it was accompanied by the fall of ash, by the darkening of the sky, by fire falling from heaven, by poison falling from heaven, radioactive material falling from heaven on the event with Moscow. And so I think there's a lot of phenomena we're not too experienced with in the modern world but the history has presented instances of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating to me. I never really considered that until all of the stuff with the comets and asteroids started happening. And I knew about wormwood, obviously from scripture, and I knew that that portion of it struck the earth. But I wonder if these comets often come with this massive entourage of their coma, the coma, and then all the other things that are orbiting around them are stuck in their gravitational pull or whatever. That could be something that the earth is thrust into or passes through and also causes that. So
Absolutely.
that means that if this thing, whatever that is, if that's how it does play out, God sent that at the beginning of time, and it was going to time perfectly to arrive at the exact time when the fourth trumpet was going to blow. And when you start getting into the nuances of the timing of all this stuff, even like, let's just say 3I Atlas or Oumuamua that came back in 2017, scientists look at it and say, okay, well, this thing came from outside of our solar system, from the next star system, and it has to be 18 billion years old, or it has to be however long it took to get here. But I'm wondering if like God could speed those things up so that the timing is just perfect, or he launches it at the right exact time. Back when Adam and Eve were still in the Garden of Eden, or after they fell or whatever, the stuff is already in motion. And
well, I have actually a different theory of comets that's in line. My theory is actually the electric universe theory. So the standard model is all the comets originated somewhere way out there beyond Neptune by who knows how many gajillions of miles. It's the Oort cloud. And so theoretically, comets are just dirty snowballs made with a little bit of accretion of dust and stone on them. But in the electric universe theory, they're trying to harmonize actual physical observations. So the NASA has sent, I think, 7 or 8 probes to comets, and they sent them up expecting to be drilling into a frozen ball of ice. And when they would actually try and drill into them, their carbide tipped drill bits could not even drill into some of these. And so this would imply they're made out of stone. So where did the stone come from? Well, right now in the asteroid belt, we have all these fragments. The ancient world had 6 visible planets, not 5 visible planets in the far, far ancient past. And when the gods in the heavens were fighting, one of them exploded. They saw it happen around the time of the fall of Troy. And that ended up becoming all the pieces that are in the asteroid belt: long period comets, short period comets, the asteroids that orbit in association with Saturn or with Jupiter, all the trans-Neptunian objects, which are way out beyond Neptune, plus a few of the planets have moons that are weird shapes and not your standard moon. So I think that God had one event that he planned, and he brought all these pieces together, and there's short period comets, long period comets, and asteroids. And we've swept most of the asteroids out that are in Earth's orbital path. But if the Earth gets moved a little bit, you got to sweep all over again. And we also have a whole bunch of long period comets that have never passed Earth before.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Do you think that the inner asteroid belt was a planet at some point?
Absolutely.
Like between us and Jupiter?
So between Mars and Jupiter.
Mars and Jupiter, I meant.
And that's probably some of the ancient mythology tales which we see in the Bible about the fall of Rahab the dragon. It's been postulated by people who've studied the subject that was the dragon that got destroyed.
It's what's fascinating to me with 3I Atlas is that as it goes through perihelion, I think toward the end of this month of October here, that it's going to pass around the sun, and then it's going to shoot back out toward Jupiter and do a very close flyby of Jupiter. But what's funny is that it's right now, like if here's the ecliptic plane, it's like 5 degrees off it. I mean, it's basically skimming the surface of the ecliptic plane that we're all on. But as it goes back out, after it passes back through Mars, it's going to dip down through the ecliptic plane and go through the inner asteroid belt that we have between Mars and Jupiter. And I keep thinking of a pool ball game. You've got the cue ball lined up, and you hit it into the rack balls, and man, they just scatter everywhere. So I don't know. I mean, if this thing is they're estimating right now that it's about 5 kilometers wide. I can't remember how long it's supposed to be, but it's a pretty good size. It's the largest of the 3 interstellars that have come through thus far. And if it has a coma that's a fairly decent sized coma around it or whatever, who's to say that it doesn't hit some of those things? I mean, I know the asteroid belt, some of those asteroids are, tens of thousands of miles apart and stuff. So it's it's a bit of speculation, but it also could pass through the thicker part of it.
Yeah.
There's parts of the asteroid belt that are a lot thicker, and we've tracked, I don't know, they've tracked thousands of these things, and there's all different size asteroids out there, anything from like 1,000 kilometers to 500 kilometers, and there's some very big ones, and there's some also. But even if it were a medium-sized one, it doesn't have to hit Earth to cause damage. I mean, think about it. If it ricocheted stuff off, and this is pure speculation, but what if it ricocheted in or knocked some of these things loose and they all kind of bombarded Mars?
Yep.
Now, Elon Musk and these other guys, they're making it their whole mission to get to Mars. They want another planet to escape to, which is interesting. When you're looking through the book of Revelation, it talks about the earth dwellers and those that dwell upon the earth. Well, if Satan is putting in their mind, hey, you need to get off planet Earth if you want to survive, but then all of a sudden Mars is taken out of the equation, that's really the only other place they could go to aside from the moon. Then that also robs them of that place to escape to, because they can't escape to Jupiter, they can't escape to those gas giants because it's not inhabitable, or you can't inhabit those places.
What's interesting to me is the idea of colonizing Mars. I won't say it's impossible, but it seems to me that they're not taking into consideration that the Martian soil is filled with highly toxic perchlorates, or maybe they would say perchlorates, but it's a variable that needs to be taken into consideration. You grow potatoes in that soil, the potatoes will take the perchlorates up, and you can't eat the potatoes.
I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Martian.
That was an amazing movie.
And so I just thought, man, you're talking about one of the most inhospitable places.
Yeah.
Even though we could theoretically survive there with enough things, but let me kind of wrap this up, I guess, with this. So you've got a guy like Elon Musk, who's like this, thick as thieves with the president. He's the richest man on the planet. He's got, I don't know, 7 or 8 companies that he's kind of controlling, and one of those companies, well, all of them are geared toward off-planet colonization. So he's got the Boring Company, which is all about tunneling and digging and all that kind of stuff, and they're doing tunnels underneath Los Angeles, etc. Another company is Starlink. Then he has Neuralink. He's got his XAI, or the X platform, Twitter platform, and he's got the robotics, and I can't remember the name of the robotics section of his, and then like the Tesla trucks. The Tesla trucks are not designed for Earth. They're designed for driving on Mars. If you think about it, if he could get somebody, if they could get their robots pre-programmed, or AI smart enough to where they could launch them. The SpaceX. They could launch these robots to the moon. The robots then, through links back to Starlink, their internet controls, and then possibly controlled through Neuralink or whatever, they could go in there then and start to build up or terraform a small section of the moon. Then that moon section becomes the launch pad to get to Mars, right? But if you take Mars out of the equation, where there's nowhere to go to. But I think Satan is trying to break prophecy. This is just like Satan is trying to wipe out all the Jews beforehand so that he can try and break prophecy. If he can get enough people off the planet, then those people would not be subject to the judgment of wrath of God, because that's for those who dwell on the earth.
That's right.
But of course, God's not going to allow that to happen. So I don't think they'll ever get to the Mars, or a moon colony like they've been talking about. And I would even be worried about those folks up in the International Space Station as well. When all this stuff starts kicking off, because you're going to be kind of front row and center seeing, the sun dark and the moon, and who knows what that entails. Whether that's
that'd be a sinking feeling to be up there, and you get your last message you get from NASA is, we're receiving a massive EMP blast from a nuclear weapon exploded over North America. This is our last communication. God bless.
Good luck. Oh man, so many things have happened. You were here 2 years ago, right? With
Yeah.
the when it happened, October 20th,
Yeah.
Or October 7th,
7th.
2023.
Yeah.
And here we are 2 years later. Would you have thought everything that's happened thus far would have happened? That, you know, like, take yourself back to that weekend when we were
Yeah.
here in 23. I certainly couldn't foresee, you know, Syria collapsing and being complete regime change there, Iran's nuclear program being taken out, Nasrallah dead, Hezbollah basically obliterated, Hamas, Gaza obliterated. Like, I thought Hamas for sure, but I didn't see any of the rest of the stuff happening by any stretch. I mean,
it's been an amazing ride for the last 2 years. If we just go back a couple more years and back to the shot, and it's just been crazy nonstop.
and you think it's going to keep getting worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we haven't seen nothing yet, unfortunately. But, you know, we're here till the Lord calls us home. And so
Occupy until he comes. In other words, stay busy until he comes.
amen. With that, we're going to close, and God bless. Good night, and Maranatha.